Hi, hey, hello, welcome to my channel. If you're tuning in and you have no idea about what's going on with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation lawsuit, you're going to want to get caught up to speed a little bit because I don't want to waste time doing the whole backstory. So anyways, they're back in court. It was day 5 today, and pretty significant because it was the first time that Johnny Depp has ever testified publicly about the whole situation. He's suing Amber Heard here in this trial in Virginia for defamation. He lost in okay, I said I wasn't gonna do the backstory. I'm guessing if you're tuning into this video, I'd hope like you know about what's going on, because I just wanted to do a little recap of the first day of Johnny's testimony. I've been keeping up with this stuff. Like I wait till the trial, the day's over usually, and then I just like watch it in fast mode because it's so freaking long. But it's just like I've been following this stuff for like a little while now on this channel. I did a little bit of a tribute song thing, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, about the whole thing, so you can check out that video. I'll link it in my description. That was like a year ago, so, but yeah, I remember when this whole thing came out. I didn't really like look into it, and there wasn't like much to look into. It wasn't until he sued the news outlet The Sun. That was back in like 2018 or something now. Yeah, it would like all this like evidence started to come out, these audio recordings and everything, and the more and more you like looked into it, it seemed like Amber wasn't telling the truth. But definitely when the news first broke, I thought, oh gosh, I guess he was violent to her or whatever. Like I initially believed, I guess they were writing it all in the magazines and saying, you know, this was like a public thing. And I said I wasn't gonna do any backstory. Anyways, okay, that's the backstory. I guess I just was trying to explain my stance. Like my current stance is like I have yet to see any actual concrete evidence that Johnny Depp ever hit her. Whether he was using self-defense, I still think he didn't like swing and hit her. I think he was probably blocking hits or something like that. Like, I don't think there's true evidence of him being physically violent to her, but there seems to be a lot of the latter, of Amber Heard admitting on audio tapes that she does hit him, and then she like is mad at him because he leaves when she starts to get physical with him, and that's just like a very telltale sign. So I was very much anticipating this whole trial. The trial had been delayed for so long, and so now it's happening, and it's like they're airing the whole thing, like live streaming the whole thing, which is insane. I'm in Canada. They don't do that here from my knowledge. And the first lawsuit with The Sun, from my understanding, like, yeah, that I guess they had different rules. That was in London or something, so it was totally different country. So yeah, the States is a lot different. So it's intense because, like I mentioned, this is the first time that Johnny Depp has ever testified publicly to all this stuff. There's videotapes of his deposition from years ago, like talking about some of the incidents in that, but this is very much his chance to clear his name and really explain and tell his side of the story publicly. So yeah, I guess I'll just do a little bit of a recap what happened. Okay, so he goes up. It just seemed like it was off to a little bit of a slow start. I think he was definitely nervous, like who wouldn't be? And I think he's a very shy person. He's like admitted that, he's spoken about it in interviews, and if you watch him in his interviews, his demeanor is similar. Like I think his stress in that was definitely like heightened in this situation. So I think he struggled even more, maybe like finding his words and just like getting into the flow of things, like initially, especially.
Can you please tell the jury why you're here today?
Yes. About 6 years ago, Ms. Heard made some quite heinous and disturbing, brought these disturbing criminal acts.
They started off with like his childhood and like his relationship to his mom and his father, and as we've heard already, his mother was quite abusive, like physically as well as emotionally, verbally. His sister had testified about that, but now we're hearing in Johnny's own words what that was really like and what that entailed and what his father was like and how his father would react to it. His father he said he would just like take it. Like the most he saw was his father punched like a wall maybe a few times or something. And then if his father was abusive towards him, he said he wasn't an abusive person.
Was your father ever abusive to you or any of your siblings?
No, my father was not an abusive man.
But he did then get into that his dad would like give him the belt, but it was always like his mother telling the dad to go do that, like, oh, go punish Johnny in this way. And
to some degree at the mercy of Betty Sue, because if he argued with what she wanted done, that would just turn into another barrage of hatred towards him.
According to Johnny's account, like other than that, his dad wasn't at all abusive in any other way to him. It was just like when the mom told him to go give him the belt, he would do that. And so yeah, no, there's a lot there with the family stuff, and it is painting this. It is giving a lot of backstory to how he grew up, and they're asking him like, how did your childhood like affect your relationship?
What have you learned from your experience in your childhood and observing your father in your childhood?
I learned that I was wrong about my first impressions of his exit from the family. Very wrong. I'll tell you one thing that I learned that was one of the best lessons I believe I've ever learned in my life, ever could learn in my life. Based on my experiences as a child, what I'd seen and experienced, I knew exactly how to raise children.
What I thought was interesting was his answers were quite long and quite wordy, and like he does take a bit to collect his thoughts and everything like that, but like his lawyer would kind of like have him go on, like she wouldn't say anything, and then even at one point like it was like there was like a long pause, and it just seemed like he kept like reiterating himself. That was sort of later on when he was talking more about like how he was talking about how he got into acting and that he never even intended to. He was more into being a musician. It wasn't until he met or his friend Nicolas Cage, I guess at the time, was like, oh, you should go audition for this thing or something like that. Something happened where his friend sort of was like, oh, they need someone for this part, or I don't know. He's like went an audition and like he was like, oh, cool, they're gonna like pay me, and it was like pretty good money. He's like, yeah, I'd never seen that kind of money before. He didn't have this intention, it seemed, of like being this like movie star, famous, or there was a lot. They really hit a lot on this whole like him with the fame and how that affected him. He was saying like he's never gotten used to it, just how famous he is. Like they definitely drew a timeline to when he started doing Pirates of the Caribbean. They hit a lot on that and how like his security changed throughout that time, which is representative of how famous he really got and how recognizable he was. Like it was tough maybe to do certain things before, and he would get recognized, but at this point now he's just like so famous that like these little things he could do here and there, like now he's got to get all this, he's got bodyguards, he's got security kind of all the time, and he's got a family at this point with kids, and so it's a lot. And I think why they were sometimes during, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like boring the jury, like reiterating this stuff, like, okay, we get it, but I think it's a very, very important like point for a few different reasons. First of all, the jury, they really try, I think, to pick people that don't even know about the case at all, like from the past stuff. Like I read an article where they were interviewing potential jurors that never got picked, and like they were like, oh, they asked me this and I said that, and it was like specifics of, it was like, oh, they asked me if I know Johnny Depp or something like that, or like, oh, I know him from, haven't really heard of Amber though. Like that could be biased. You know Johnny Depp, you don't have any idea who this Amber Heard is. Like they try to get a really, really unbiased jury. So these people might not even really know who Johnny Depp really is. Like, it might be hard to believe that there'd be people out there that don't know who he is, but there are people that aren't that invested in the Hollywood culture, and, you know, people have their own tastes with movies and that. And like, at least these people are maybe like, they don't know a ton of details about him, or I don't know. It's like, there are those people who, because there's on like talk shows and that they'll get celebrities who are super famous to go out there on the street and just like interview people. I saw one with Jennifer Lawrence the other day. She was like talking about her. She's like, "Oh, do you know who Jennifer Lawrence is?"
Do you know who Jennifer Lawrence is? This is the worst day of my life.
Jennifer Lawrence. Nope.
Or can you name like 5 Jennifer Lawrence movies? Like,
5 Jennifer Lawrence movies.
I know. Who is that bitch?
You asked me about Aniston, I could tell you.
Right, Jennifer Aniston is way better than Jennifer Lawrence. Do you agree?
like, the lady has no idea who she is.
I'm Jennifer Lawrence.
I would consider Jennifer Lawrence to be pretty famous. She's kind of been out of the spotlight lately, but when she did this whole thing, it was when she was, I think, pretty, you know, having all these movies at the time, very famous. So yeah, there's people out there that don't know much about these people and these celebrities. So like, you really have to explain these things, I think, in layman's terms. And, you know, even just referencing, oh, pirates, like they do have to explain what the movie is about, or like he talked about how he developed the character for that role, and like that touched a lot on his work ethic and how serious he is as an actor. Because from Amber's team, there's like, one of their arguments is, one of the big ones is that Johnny, he had issues with drugs and alcohol, and that he was like late on the set of Pirates 5, like a lot, and they're insinuating that it's because the drugs and the alcohol were so bad and it was like affecting his work. And yeah, I don't know. This during it, I'm like, gosh, this is like when are we gonna get into some of the real, you know, juicy stuff, if you will, for lack of a better word, because it's intense shit. It's not something to, I don't know, like, I feel bad for, I guess it's just really interesting to me, and like, I learned things from it and stuff, but it's like not something to like, I don't know, it's like, it's people's lives. I don't want to be all gossipy in that, and I don't know, I haven't even really posted, I've never posted a video yet talking about celebrities, I guess, besides that song thing I did.
I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was.
But I haven't posted commentary about it. And I don't know, because it's like, who am I to judge these people? Like, I guess I'm just commenting on it. But it helps me learn from my own experiences, or draw things from my experiences that I've been through and stuff like that. And like, I just want to like respect these people that are going through this insane time. But it's all public. They're airing the trial publicly, which would be really, like he said today, I think he said, she was asking him, how do you feel about this all being public and all, and having to say it and this and that. He was like, it's really been exposing, and it, especially for a really a shy guy like Johnny, it would be like, this would be so uncomfortable. Like, I see why he's, you know, he doesn't want to have to be up there saying all this stuff and everything. So, you know, he's just trying to clear his name, and he's got off task here. So Amber's team, yeah, they try to say that the alcohol and the drugs is a big thing, relating that to him being physically abusive, because they try to say that he would like black out, so then he's not even credible because he won't remember what happened. But today in his testimony, like, I think he came off very honest, and I think that was extremely important. Some of his witnesses seem to downplay, like, maybe they didn't, you know, witness a whole lot, but like the guy earlier today, it was one of his main security guys, can't remember his name. He said, oh, I've only seen him ever have like a couple glasses of wine. I think maybe he has only witnessed that. He's been told in text by Depp, like, that's where they try to catch him. They're like, oh, well, didn't he send you this text about him drinking like a whole bottle of wine and this and I don't know, I think he could have been a little bit more honest, stuff like, yeah, I've heard that he drinks a lot, but like, he does, you know, handle his liquor. Like, I've only, you know, you can't tell he like drinks, and that, like, seems to be a very common thing among these witnesses, and that is that like, you couldn't really tell the difference if Johnny was like intoxicated or not. Like, he did hold his liquor. So to me, it doesn't really matter too so much of like how much he drank. It's sort of like how, well, obviously if you're like completely blacking out or whatever, just like that's one thing, you're not even aware of what you're doing. But for him, like he has like a high tolerance, it seems too. So, like if it's more than a couple glasses of wine or whatever, but like his demeanor, like everyone's noticing that like he's not really changing or acting out of control, then it's it makes sense. And it shouldn't lead you to speculate like, oh, well, just because he has a lot to drink, like then he totally is like punching Amber, not knowing it or whatever. And it seems like he gets dependent on this stuff too. So then it's like that high tolerance, right? They asked a bit, I'm all over the place. Yeah, I think he spoke a little bit on like the alcohol, but then when she asked him, have you ever been like addicted to any drug? Oh yeah, he talked about his first sort of, I guess, experiences with the drugs were when he was quite young. I don't know how old, maybe like 12 or something, I can't remember.
At about the age of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old,
He would see his mother. I guess she would get him to ask him to bring her nerve pills, is what she called it.
Mom telling me to go get her nerve pills.
So some type of anti-anxiety type of pill or something, I guess it would be, or maybe it wasn't some type of opiate. I don't know. We don't know what it was, but he would be giving her the pills, and he sort of learned like, oh, that's how she calms down. And then he expressed like that's how he learned to calm down. He didn't know. He wasn't taught like how to regulate his emotions and stuff like that. So he would take some of the pills as well back then.
And then she seemed to calm down after she took those nerve pills. When I was 11 years old, I wanted to calm down, and I didn't know how to. I'd bring my mom her nerve pill, walk away, and I would take one myself.
And then it seemed like he kind of dabbled in a bunch of different drugs. Like he admitted he was like, oh, I tried like every drug that I knew of at the time.
I told him I'd pretty much done all the drugs that I was aware of by the time I was 15 years old, and which was true. That doesn't mean to say that I continued into that, forest of possibilities with regard to substances. I wasn't dropping acid every 5 minutes. There were many years that I didn't touch a substance and no drugs. There were many years that I didn't have a drink.
But then when she asked, were you ever addicted to any substance?
Is there any substance that you've ever been addicted to?
He then mentioned the prescription medication that they've been talking about like throughout the trial. His sister and Dr. Kipper and like the RN nurse, there was like this specific drug that he was dependent on, Roxycontin.
Roxycodone or Roxycontin.
It's like an opiate. It's like Oxycontin. I don't know what the difference is. Sounds very similar.
I think oxycodone has the opiate and then some pain, like paracetamol or something, and then the Roxys are just the opiate.
Yeah, that was prescribed to him for an injury.
As I swung around to throw the chair out the window, I felt this immediate electricity from the bottom of my spine down my left leg.
He had sciatica pain, so that's what they got prescribed to him. And it's very common for people these days. Like those drugs are so freaking addictive. Like I've heard of people that basically same thing, like they get some type of like a back injury or something, they get prescribed these things from their doctor, and it's prescription medication, and it's just a very addictive substance. And especially someone who's prone to already, I guess, self-medicating with alcohol and other types of substances in the past, or like that's what he called it, self-medicating. These things weren't ever like a party thing to him.
I've never taken any substance for a party. I have taken these substances over the years, on and off, to numb myself.
I know people that's how they experience it. Like I know people that they drink alone, and it's not they don't care to go to a party and like drink, and like it's like they're very much self-medicating and numbing. He said like with that medication, the Roxycontin, it's like in the beginning maybe you get a high, but like after a certain point, like once you depend on it, like it's like there's no high at all. You're only just taking it to stop the withdrawal symptoms. I think he said people, like a lot of people who overdose, it's because they are trying to chase that like first high they felt, but it's like they don't feel that. It's just your body needs that substance to function normally. So what it seems like he was very much like a functioning drug user, I guess. We don't know exactly how much alcohol really he was having or depending on. It seemed like when that medication at the time, that was the thing he was addicted to and dependent on. Like maybe he was drinking too, and that was like the main, like that was the addiction. And he admitted that he was addicted to it before he even met Amber. So it was like already a thing before he met her.
Before you were in a relationship with Miss Heard?
Yes. I believe so.
And you detoxed from those opiates during your relationship with Miss Heard. Is that right?
Yes.
And then, yeah, they asked him about his relationship with Amber, of course.
How did your experiences observing your parents as a child affect your approach to your relationship with Miss Heard?
Well, he said initially his relationship with Amber was like totally fine and everything, and it seemed too good to be true.
It was as if she was too good to be true.
Like a year and a half, things were fine, but then like he did notice some stuff. So at the beginning of the testimony, he had mentioned that one of the things that he kind of noticed that was like weird was, I guess what she would do is when he came home from work, she had this sort of routine of she would take off his boots for him, like sit him down on the couch and then like give him a glass of wine. And I guess that was just like her little special thing to do for him, but it had become like a routine and that. And I think at that point, he probably didn't think anything of it until there was this time where he came home and she was like on the phone, she was like busy or something. So he sat down, like took off his own boots, whatever. And then she came out and was like upset that he took off his own boots.
So I sat down on the couch and I took my boots off. Suddenly, Miss Heard approached with this look on her face and she just said, "What did you just do? What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean? You took your boots off." I said, "Yeah, yes, I did. You were busy, you know." No, that's my job. That's what I do. You don't do that. I do that. Okay, all right then. And then she said, "Let me get you a glass of wine." And she brought me the glass of wine. But I did take pause, of course. The fact that she was visibly shaken or upset. I had broken her rules of routine.
That circumstance, like the specifics of that, with her doing something for him, taking off his boots or whatever, like it seems like her, maybe like the little sense of control or security. That's the one thing. And then later on, the lawyer asked him, like, yeah, was there any other things that you noticed? Kind of like red flag type of things. She seemed to have a problem with them going to bed at different times.
I'd say, "Oh, well, I can't sleep, right now." And rather than go and just lay in a bed and stare at the ceiling, I would say, I'll just watch. I'll be either watching TV or hanging out, and that was just not acceptable. Just not acceptable. It would stir up some rather unusual reactions.
Like she must have been okay with it up until a certain point, because I can't imagine them just like for a year and a half, like happening to like every single night always go to bed at the exact same time so that this like issue wouldn't ever surface for like a year in or whatever. Like I think she was just on her best behavior, and she does seem to have a lot of narcissistic qualities. And narcissists are known to be the charmer initially. And like Johnny said, like, oh, it seemed like too good to be true. Like she was attentive. She was this and like she was like perfect. And he did say, when she like took off my boots for me and that, he's like,
she would sit me down on the couch and give me a glass of wine, take my boots off, set them to the side. And I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I just never thought. I just never experienced that before. And it became a regular thing.
I thought, he's like, oh, no one's ever done this. Like, this is, like, that's never happened to me. It was kind of weird. It was like, I don't know, it does seem a bit over the top. Like, I get, like, a few times here and there, but, like, for her to, like, make it, like, it's like I don't know, she's, like, has to do it every time. And then with the going to bed at the same time. So he's like, I'm a grown man and I'm not allowed to go to bed when I want to. Like, what?
As a 50-something-year-old man, was not allowed to go to sleep when I wanted to.
So yeah, it's like things started to change and come out. And what a lot of stuff reminds me of, like what I can draw from my own experiences is, it seems like, for one thing, Amber has an anxious attachment style, I would say, which is an insecure attachment style. If you're not familiar with attachment styles, you can look it up. But anyways, it's like with an anxious attachment style, that's something that I have. I'll just give some examples. So you feel insecure in the relationship, and you sometimes want to have, one of the things would be like constant communication or check-ins. You can just tend to feel, I guess, unloved, insecure, in certain circumstances where maybe the other person isn't being as attentive or something. Or like, I don't know. Everyone has their own like specific little things that affect them. I don't mean to like diagnose or anything. This isn't even a diagnosis at all. It's just like a style of how you are in a relationship. So there's like avoidant, and then secure, and then anxious attached. Again, I said, look it up because this has been such a long discussion already. And it's like, I don't know, this is turning into a whole podcast. This is just like what happens. And I don't have any freaking time to edit this stuff because there's court again tomorrow for this whole thing that I want to do another recap tomorrow. And it like, it's just, there's no time. I was saying, I'm not trying to diagnose it or whatever. Who cares? Whatever. I'm speculating that she has an anxious attachment style. I'll tell you my triggers. Because I do relate to my partner. He can be kind of like avoidant at times, but he also seems to err on anxious attached as well. But like it's weird because like both of them, the avoidant is like, they also feel anxiety about the relationship and like insecure about it, but it's like their way of dealing with it is to kind of shut down. And it's not interchangeable at all, but you could say like an avoidant person is probably more introverted, or that's what they seem. The classic avoidant person with an anxious attached person would be that guy, stereotypically speaking, you know, the guy being the avoidant and the girl being anxious attached, and the guy is like not wanting to commit, even maybe doesn't want to commit to a relationship, and the girl's just like chasing him and just like always in being, you know, checking her phone all the time. Did he text me? Did he text me? Like, oh no, he didn't text me. Oh, this, like, so my triggers personally would be like a lot has changed now. My partner and I have really like worked through all this and like realizing like what that stuff is. A book that I can recommend is called Attached, was like a game changer for us. Anyways, my triggers, the texting stuff. Yeah, like if I would text him and not hear back, and as time went on, I was like stir up this anxiety. Like I wanted just like a check-in. Like that's my security, that I know that he cares or likes me or whatever. Like if I didn't get that text back, or like say he didn't text me for like 8 hours straight, I would just like feel really hurt and upset and like unloved. And my brain would just go to negative things of like, oh, he's like purposely doing this to, like, I don't know. It's like when you have had a lot of trauma in your life, it expresses itself in all these different types of ways, and you can get these cognitive distortions and whatnot, whatever. That's one of them. Another one of mine does have to do with sleep schedules, and I feel like I've come a long way with this, but my partner can be prone, especially like years ago, like very prone to having a total opposite sleep schedule to me. And he would like stay up all night and like sleep all day. And then I felt like we didn't get quality time and stuff, but I would get very frustrated and mad if he was like sleeping all day and stuff. And I don't think I had good communication skills at all back then. And I've never resorted to physical violence ever in my relationships, but like I have been pretty toxic in certain ways of like yelling, like raising my voice and getting mad. And yeah, it's, I don't know. We've both been through our own shit with each other, and we very much like mirrored each other's trauma, and we've had to work through that. I kind of grew up in a household where like I was yelled at and all that, and like that's no excuse whatsoever, but I kind of learned a lot of those things and that behavior, and not proud of it whatsoever. But so this sleep thing, I have gotten a little bit frustrated, I guess, because I get woken up. Like if my partner Sean, if we are sleeping in the same room, like now we have different rooms, so it's great because then we can, you know, if I'm a really light sleeper, which I am, and he's gonna come in like 4 hours later after I finally get to sleep and then wake me up and then I'm not going to get back to sleep because he goes to bed really late. Like, you know, we have our own rooms we can go to and stuff, but it's still, for me, it's like a closeness thing. If I don't get time during the day to connect, and my love language is physical touch. So for me, I would associate bedtime with like, oh, maybe he'll cuddle me. And so that was one of the reasons of me getting a bit frustrated sometimes. Like, I don't know, I guess I would like encourage us to go to bed at the same time and that, but like I wouldn't, it's his freaking life and his needs and his sleep. Imagine someone telling me that I can't go to bed when I want. And like I did get frustrated with the morning stuff, especially like if he was getting up at like 5 p.m. Like I was like, you need to get up. The way I would talk to him was like not healthy. It's one thing to have these triggers and grow up in a household of trauma and have these issues and that. And Johnny's spoken of like that. Like he's like, at some point you have to stop numbing, like with him using the drugs and that to numb. Like at some point you do have to face your demons. But yeah, and I've apologized for my toxic behavior to my partner and everything. And it's just, yeah, you got to take responsibility for your actions, like how you deal with that emotional trauma. What he's talking about here.
I was not allowed to go to sleep when I wanted to, as opposed to when she wanted to. It started out with little things like that.
Oh, you know, that was kind of a weird thing. These little things where she's like being controlling. He was talking about how that.
There were a couple of things that stuck in my head that I noticed that I thought might be a little bit of a dilemma at some point.
Like that's kind of like where it started, and then it's just like it escalated in that, and it got to such a toxic level to where in the audio tapes when he listens to him, like she's admitted to hitting him. And
Not hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
See what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny, that I'm a victim too of that time. And I know it's a fair fight. It sees how many people believe or I believe.
Oh, she's just so caught up in her reaction, her justification of her feelings. What I hear in those audio recordings is her gaslighting him and being like, well, she's blaming him for her behavior. She's like, well, you split, you leave, and you don't stay here and fight. And
you don't fight for me. You don't fight when there's a problem. You don't come to me. You don't make peace with me. You never extend an olive branch. You're never the bigger guy. You're never the one that's like, okay, I'm going to put my own feelings aside for a second and say, this is bigger than us. Let's stop fighting. You never are the one to come and knock on my door. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start physical fights?
You're such a baby!
Because
Grow the fuck up,
Because you
Johnny.
start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the fuck out of there.
Every time anything goes wrong, you split. I feel like it's your first thing. And it's unnecessary. It's not always you're splitting because there's blows. I constantly feel like you're about to fucking split, and I don't want to feel like that. You made me feel meaningless.
You threw me out of the bedroom.
Yeah, why wouldn't I if I know that you're about to split? I mean, that's what I'm saying. You
wasn't
always
about to split.
You always split, so that's... Why wouldn't... I mean, I do blame myself for my actions.
I was
yesterday,
laying in
but I
bed
also
watching
don't
television, man.
that, to me, too, is a very, like, anxious attachment style type of thing. Her ex-personal assistant that testified, like, she said Amber was telling her that she felt insecure and that, like, so it's just, yeah, it just, Amber's qualities, it seems she's very much insecure in this relationship, and how she deals with it is very, very unhealthy. If she is, in fact, a narcissist or narcissist, deep down inside, they are extremely insecure. Like the narcissism, the self-inflated like confidence in that, like the outward persona is just a mask for deep insecurity. And Amber has, like she's talked about how her dad seems freaking scary. Like he threatened to shoot Johnny Depp or something. She said, I think, she said her dad was physically abusive to her. And so she also grew up in a household of trauma, but it's like these two individuals, they've grew up in similar types of trauma, like being physically abused. But then what came of that and how their coping mechanisms with that, you know, are different. And it's like they got into this like trauma bond dynamic is what it seemed like, where very much seems like she's the perpetrator and he's like his dad, like he just sort of took it and it like tried to make things better. And I don't doubt that like the witnesses said like they've seen him like yelling at the phone to her, that like I don't doubt they got in like these arguments. And if the jury hears that he like yelled at his at the time spouse or whatever, and it's like, oh no, that means he's like totally like, we're all human and we raise our voices and we get frustrated, we get angry and we get into arguments and like we yell and stuff. It's tough because these things can be very impressionable to a jury when you have limited time in this courtroom to like paint a picture and convince them, and like things can really stick out. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's tough, but I'm getting so, I get so invested in some of these types of things, like with relationships and celebrities and that. Like I got so into, I go down these rabbit holes. Like I went down a few years ago, like the Kurt Cobain, Courtney Love rabbit hole and all that shenanigans and conspiracy theories and stuff. And I don't know, I find it very interesting and I learn a lot from it, but it honestly, it's like it is emotionally taxing. I was catching up on the trial stuff because I was like, oh, I want to do this video. And I was watching stuff all day. So I watched the whole trial like yesterday. I guess I listened to it mostly like in fast mode because it's so freaking long. And then I remember I missed a little bit of like the first day with Johnny Depp's sister and that. So I was listening to all that for way too long, like all day. I have to admit, like that's what I did all day. And then I had a freaking like dream in the morning time-ish or last night, like, but more like a freaking nightmare. I had a nightmare that Johnny Depp didn't get to testify and he like didn't even get his chance to speak or something. And I don't know, they found something like, oh no, he got like taken to jail or something. Like, I don't know. It was intense. And then I remember, I don't know, it was weird. I was like at a table sitting across from Amber Heard after this whole thing. And I just remember, I just felt so sad for her. I was like, she needs to feel loved. Like she's a very troubled, hurt person. And it just seemed like, I thought I made a note about, there was something about this, like this shame or this something that she must feel. But like, she's just gotten herself so deep in these lies, allegedly. I believe the evidence points towards these, like she gone girled him is what it really seems like. Gosh, I just watching this stuff today, I'm just waiting for this like moment where, I don't know, you can see her just looking at her face. It's like, seems like she's trying very much to be emotionless or whatever, like, but yeah, it seems like she's holding in so much and she has to keep, she probably feels like she has to keep like putting on this like show of she's the victim and like she's like seeing this whole thing through. She's in this trial. And I'm like, gosh, like it'd be so much better for her to just break down, even just like mid Johnny testimony or whatever, just in the middle of this thing, just break down, be like, I'm sorry, yeah, I lied. I did it. Or just the whole coming clean thing. And because she's just lost the respect of the public at this point. Like she has some supporters, but like the media and everything keeps saying that Johnny has already won the public opinion because all that evidence and stuff came out from the other case. Like even though he ended up losing that case, it is hard to like win defamation lawsuits to begin with, but like all this stuff ended up coming out from it. And then people sort of saw the reality and the truth to it. And like, he's already kind of won the public opinion. I don't think he cares about the money really. I don't think maybe he could use the money. I don't know. I heard throughout the trial that he was like in some financial problems, but he's probably still going to do all right because I think he's going to get his acting roles back after this whole thing or whatever. I think it's just this whole him suing her in general is like a symbolic thing and you gotta sue them for money. So the money's there. But I feel like if at this point even like Amber broke down in the middle of court and was like, I'm so sorry, Johnny, like how could I do this to you? Like I'm sorry I ruined your life. And she like comes clean and she like actually lets herself feel the guilt and she like goes through it and that. I feel like he would be like him seeming like such a good, genuine guy and everything, like and that he doesn't care about the money. Like I think he would be like, okay, I don't need your money. I just needed you to admit it. I needed you to tell the truth. Because he said in his testimony, I think he said if she would have just told the truth or something, he's like, yeah, I don't want to do this, but he's been affected. His career's been affected. I feel like he's totally justified in doing this. Like, I believe it is necessary. He's been totally fucked with. But anyways, gosh, this has been way too long. Goodness gracious. Wow, we just went to town with that one. This turned into a whole long podcast. Whoever tuned into this, howdy, welcome to the channel. Or if you are a subscriber, thank you for sitting through that whole thing. And hopefully you knew a bit about the case and knew what I was talking about. But yeah, anyways, I don't know, all the stuff is like interesting and whew, it's intense. But tomorrow Johnny is on the stand again, so I'm gonna tune into that, and so I can do another recap is what I'm planning like this. So yeah, if you guys want to tune into that, you're gonna want to click the subscribe button, click the notification bell so you can get updated when I upload, and comment down below, please. What do you guys think about all this stuff? And if you haven't already, check out the song I did in reference to this whole situation. It's in reference to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's relationship. It's kind of like their relationship told throughout a song. I did a cover of a song and I put up, there's a video to it, everything, whatever. So yeah, that's in the description. But anyways, love you guys. Take care of yourselves and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.